Tu tibieza, quiero llenarte, llenarte entera, que tengas el amor y cosas buenas, que te quede poco tiempo, el tiempo que se va. Bye bye 2020. Bye bye 2020. Goodbye.
Adios, adios, Carmen. Thank you. I'm this is Conversations with Carmen. And you can fade the music down, Carmen, if you don't mind. Yeah, fade it down now. Great. This is the continuation of our month-long series. We are pleased to have received a contract with the Minnesota Department of Health to do interviews with agencies, organizations, civic and public leaders, elected officials, appointed officials, talking about the impact of COVID-19 on our community, talking about our abilities and strategies to mitigate the damage, the infection, the hospitalization, the death rate our communities are experiencing, and hopefully begin the conversation that will mean greater embrace and utilization of vaccines and other strategies going forward. And today we wanted to spend time reflecting on the number of wonderful guests we've had over the past 25 or so days, and we can talk about who's going to be on the next several days. This project, as it exists right now, ends on 31 December. It was a 1-month project that we proposed to the health department that they responded to with a go-ahead, enabling me to reach out to my friends Carmen Robles and my friend Brenda Lau Gray to join me and our producer, engineer Kelvin, in creating this daily series that I think is innovative, important, and hopefully we'll be able to do something like this going forward in the future. Mm-hmm. So today, I wanted to thank you who have watched this on YouTube, ask you to express your interest or your concern by commenting on the program, joining the program, liking the program. If you're watching it later today on Facebook, start a watch party and share the conversation, and let's connect and just be a part of this, and let me know if you have felt what we believe is the value this conversation brings to our community on an important topic of the day. Carmen, how are you today?
Buenos dias. I'm fine. I got the holiday blues, but but otherwise very, very grateful. Excited to have been part of this historic segment of series on COVID-19. This is the decade of people of African descent being celebrated by the United Nations through 2014. And so it seems that this supplemental material that we're gathering right here in the Twin Cities is just so apropos and so perfect timing for such a difficult, challenging time in our nation, in the world. But we're resilient. We come from resiliency. We know how to swing in the breeze, and this podcast has been able to epitomize all these hardworking folks on the front lines. And we also had grassroots folks come in and share stories. Very exciting. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank Brenda, Calvin, the whole team at Insight News. And the 31st is the last one. We'll close out with Commissioner Tony Carter from Ramsey County. And very excited.
Let's go over who we've talked to. And first of all, Brenda, how are you? And Brenda, thank you so much for jumping in to this project with 2 feet and an open heart and tons of talent, capturing these important conversations, rendering news articles for the newspaper and for beyond. Thank you so much for what you've done and for bringing your voice and your experience to these conversations as well.
Well, good morning, and looking forward to New Year's Eve so I can sit and watch the clock go after 12 and know it's gone for a while. But anyway, I've totally enjoyed it, Al, and have met so many wonderful people, and especially young girls who are just so committed. And I mean, they have their stuff together. So, and then of course, there was Adair Mosley who just totally changed my whole life, with a young man who just put it out there. And I've just been impressed with so many people. And I do thank you for the opportunity. Was it a lot of work? I still have a little bit ahead, but everything I've written, Carmen, my keys are coming off of my computer. So I told Al I've got to go get some super glue to put my E down.
Yes, yes, I know
But
how
it
you
has
feel.
been it's been great. And I think you have really had a voice in this. I told him we need to put all of his introductions and his closings. We need to put those in a book. They
Yes,
were that powerful.
yes,
But anyway, thank you.
Let me do some
yes,
screen
thank
sharing
you.
as we talk. When you mentioned Adair Mosley, Adair heads the Pillsbury United Communities program.
Oh,
And that was a great interview. So I pulled up his website. And what
what
I'll
a
do
dude.
in the course of this conversation is try to capture and present some of the images that go along with our conversations that we had. And so talk about what impressed you with Adair Mosley. Let me give a background though. Pillsbury United is about, I think, 100-year-old organization or close to it or a little bit over than that. But they've been in the settlement house business for years and years and years. They've been a major organization. And like many, they are experiencing a shift in an intentional way, are moving to reflect the new demographics. Pillsbury, plastic, white lead, you know, kind of charity model. How does the community respond with benevolence towards those who are less fortunate? And that's like 100 years ago to 50 years ago to 25 years ago. But then in the past, 20 years, our populations of color have simply grown and grown and grown and placed different demands on the public and also on the notion of what charity is and how it should work and what equity is and how that should work. And so Adair is the beneficiary of change in the community. Young Black man is followed by a young Black woman as the president of Pillsbury United. And she is maybe like only the third or fourth director in the history of the organization, and the first Black person, Black woman. She now is one of the leaders at the Minneapolis Foundation, doing a great job there. Her name is Chandra Baker Smith, just an impeccable human being. But Adair is following her in her footsteps and doing a great job leading this multi-million-dollar organization to create change in communities. What were your impressions? Why did his name come to your mind first, Brenda?
It was a simple plan for Biden. This is what's got to happen if you're going to turn this around. And it's got to happen quick, and it has to happen with these dollar signs behind it. And we are no longer going to be under the rug. And it was just like, wow, he laid it out. He just, I don't know what it was about him, but he's a little bit before his time. But I hope that some of it, Carmen, I don't know if you get a chance, go back to the article that I did on Keith Ellison, Attorney General, and then Adair was in it. Well, at the end, I told Al, I had to almost verbatim put what both of them said. It was so profound.
Wonderful.
It really was. And I won't forget it. And I copied off those two paragraphs, because it was like, put this in an envelope and send it to Harris Biden. Look at this from a young man who just gave you a platform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was powerful.
Yep, and we could send it through social media. We don't have to use an envelope anymore.
Isn't that the truth? I don't know if they look at it. Biden is my age. Well,
Carmen, how
he better get ready.
Carmen, how did you approach organizing this? When I called you up and said to you, here's what this is gonna possibly do. What do you think? And you said, I got it. I'll make it happen. What did you think? Just go through the process of winding this thing up and making it happen. Maybe you had on a 2-day notice. I think 2 days, 3 days.
No,
Yeah, right.
It was 1 day notice.
1 day.
No. Well, we've been working the ethnic media component on COVID-19 since early spring. And I've been privy to the internal conversations and the need to get real time, real life information into our communities of color. And so it was just, it was like winning the lottery when you called me and said, hey, MDH, this is what we're doing. We're concentrating on the African-American community because really Africa's the umbilical cord to all the communities. So for me, it was an easy in. And you gave me very clear instructions. MDH announced 56 community engagement contractors and 20-some media contractors. Find out who's doing what in the African American community, which I did, and we followed up, and it was like dominoes. Everybody was so happy to be doing it. Everybody, as you can see, we had 40 plus participants, and we'll have 29 segments. And so we have 6 commissioners, 2 senators, 8 organizations. I mean, it's just the momentum is so great. So for me, it was exciting to see the swell of energy of people wanting to be on the podcast because they knew that it would go into the living rooms of community folks. And so for me, that was the most exciting part. At first, it was a little difficult because I think people thought that you were going to beat them up, what's happening in my community.
Why would they have thought that, Carmen?
But
explain that to me. What is it about what we do that had people maybe apprehensive?
Saying not one word.
Bring the truth. Truth is the reality is difficult because we want to believe that everything's okay. We see it on TV. It's okay, but the TV that we watch, mainstream watches, isn't really the TV I watch or my household watches. Mm-hmm. And so to have this public service about press, about the media, and then to have these leaders wanting to come into the community, wanting to have that one-on-one with regular folks who are confused. Everybody's confused. So for me, that was the most exciting, most powerful part of all of this was to
see people at the top of the hill too.
Yes. And everybody wants to help. We're in this together, really, seriously.
Well, just think about the young man that opened this, though, not just the pandemic, this 41-year-old that they have just, hung up to crucify. But for some reason, even with all of the other young Blacks that have been unjustly murdered, it was something about the Minneapolis 38th Street that had people standing back saying, this is not right. And it just opened up. It was like a volcano erupting. We have to do something about this. And then you have the revolutionary media mogul on the other end who just spewed out so many, really, Al.
Yeah.
Your introductions and your conclusions were profound. I wished I had a computer or a recorder or something. I mean, because you hit it every time. Look at that. I love that cover. That was so profound.
That was a big issue, you know. So, Carmen, we talked about the confluence of the pandemic, COVID-19, but many of the guests came on talking about the pandemic of 1619. And I think when we speak as Afrodescendientes, we have to broaden that further and talk about the pandemic of 1492, when someone got lost, right? You know, but couldn't tell the truth and said, "Oh, I discovered, not that I'm lost, but I discovered," and the lie began, right? La mentira.
La mentira.
So it was interesting that everybody kind of brought together, you know, the impact, understanding the impact, the devastation of COVID-19, and how in that devastation it revealed the attendant areas of dysfunction and kind of race or supremacy driven what's the right word, disengagement or disservice to many people of color in particular. And so that's what's been exciting for me, is to have a conversation that talks about the culture, the history, and the problems that our cultures have experienced. But beyond that, we've also talked about culture as the pathway to healing.
Yes.
Celebrating what we are, what we've come through, and celebrating what we are going towards, what we are becoming as individuals, as families, as communities, and our voices helping shape what the future is going to be. Write the history, write the future for humanity. That's what I think. But what do you think, Carmen? ¿Qué piensas?
Yo pienso, buen dicho, bravo, bravísimo.
Oh, she is just something, that spirit, rolling those R's.
It's humanity, you know, it's, we all breathe, we all get hungry, we all love. We maybe hate a little bit more than we should, but I think as we look into our own culture, our own resilience within our own family structures, we're able to connect to that joy, and we're able to transcend the pain. And right now, I think COVID-19 is the lighthouse. It's got this great big light on the inequities and just the unfairness of it all. And on the other side, you see the people just rising to remedy that, to fix that, to from within. It's like we don't need anyone coming outside to helping our community. You were just sharing the story with us, Mr. Mack, in your neighborhood with the shooting and not of a movie. And so, you know, you start in South Minneapolis, and it started the flame that ignited across the nation, but we're in North Minneapolis, and we're still, you know, facing that. And St. Paul, every day now there's a shooting, and so everything's interconnected. And I think as your show points out and has people talking, the conversation, like in Lucy's Kitchen, when people would come together and just have the conversation. Now we do it virtually. It's easier. You can have more people participate, and it's able to get that real information of trust. And I think that's what you did. And I think that's why people were anxious to get on your program, was because they know you bring in that sense of trust, of knowing the community, of the community knowing you. And then, you know, then we get to work and we fix things up. Right now, we got to make sure that we don't let our guard down, that, you know, that we're still in difficult places with this COVID-19, and that we're still in this together, and it's a long haul. But I just totally believe in miracles, you know, and all that good stuff. So I think that good always rises from bad, and it's an opportunity to create something wonderful. And that's how I see this podcast. Even though it's in the most horrible of times, it took forever, but it came together and it got done, and everybody's still soldiers, and they're still on that front line. And there's a great pride in that, because we do hear about the news in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and how the Twin Cities are just killing each other and all of that. But there's also something with the Twin Cities about how we're coming together and working together. And so it was a great opportunity with your podcast to do that, to include both cities, include Latinos and Native Indians. And I mean, it was a beautiful combination of humanity. Yeah.
One of the things we did, Brenda, you mentioned that you were impressed with young ladies, and you really were mentioning two groups concurrent with the work that we're doing on COVID-19. We're also doing daily podcasts, at least 5 days a week, on an ongoing series of engagements. And every Wednesday, Carmen, we connect with women who are part of a group called the Black Women's Wealth Alliance. And BWWA has organized and has presented a project called the Bee Marketplace, right? And I think Brenda was referring in part to this powerful entrepreneurism, energy and spirit that these young Black women are bringing to market, even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And Brenda, you might want to share, what your impressions and thoughts were. I'm going to pull up a page on who they were, but talk about them in particular and other people that were impressing you as you did the research and the writing, Brenda.
Well, first of all, my hat goes off to Kenya. I just think the organization and the energy and planning behind that organization is just great. And these young girls were young mothers, and they had full-time jobs, but they were still creative, and they were Al called them brave and courageous, and that's what I see with them. And I was just really, really impressed. I didn't get my mango, but I'm going to check that out. They were really, really wonderful young ladies. They were not afraid to talk about, their stories and how they came upon their products. And they're gonna go a long way. They really are.
I'm sharing as you talk, Brenda, at the page that started, the paper that included a profile of Kenya McKnight. The headline on the cover was "Building Wealth," and it's a picture of.
Oh, she's sharp.
Just beautiful spirits, beautiful Black women. And they are all part of the Bee Marketplace pulled together by Kenya's organization, Black Women's Wealth Alliance. I'm going to flip through the pages here on our issue.
And Al, hats off to Jazzy. She was just a delight.
Wasn't she good?
My goodness, I loved her.
She represented Kenya every week, bringing 4 or 5 different women artists to the program every Wednesday for the interview. But I'm looking at how we presented the story on the Bee Marketplace and a nice profile picture of Kenya.
Yes.
But Carmen, look at this under that, the story, "My Vote Will Be Black," a wave of Afro-Brazilian women ran for office in 2020. That
was a great article.
To have that story, because that's what we're talking about, Carmen, Afrodescendientes, right?
Afrodescendientes, sí.
Creating awareness that our people exist throughout the hemisphere, North and South. And there is, part of the strategy of colonialism and imperialism has been to divide and conquer, to keep people segregated and disaggregated and dependent on one person only and not on themselves, right? And here we have comments or commentary on Afro-Brazilian people. And the mission from my point of view as the editor of the newspaper is to continue to show our people wherever we are part of the diaspora, and that we're not simply confined to North Minneapolis or confined to St. Paul, but we also exist on the streets in Uruguay and in Colombia and in San Juan, Santo Domingo, in Accra. And so there's this connectivity that we simply need to discover again, because in discovering that, we will discover who we really are, who we truly are. And as we discover that, we will discover the power we have to change the earth and change the course of humanity. That's what I really believe. And so even in this story,
it's heavy.
you see the piece by and about that you wrote about
what's that?
B. Brenda, you have
Which one?
The story is Dr. B, Psychological Support, Long Overdue. That was the first in the series. Are you able to see the screen?
I'm looking at it.
You see the piece with Dr. B. That's your piece. Yeah.
I like my second piece better on her.
Talk about them both. Talk about them.
She's so powerful. I mean, it was like, what was her African proverb? More hands make lighter work.
Right.
And if you want to go far, oh, here I go again with these. But it was like, look.
Want to go far, go in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like, this is common sense. We have ignored mental health for so long, and we have made it ugly. We've made it to be a stigmatism. But look at where you come from. I know I needed it growing up. I needed someone to tell me that I was okay in my brown skin. And my parents couldn't tell me that because they didn't believe it at the time. But boy, we got tough. No one could tell us, Al, in Santa Fe Place growing up in 52 and 53 that we weren't tough. Carmen, he did tell you I was a revolutionary at 5.
Yeah, he could barely remember anything, actually. No.
Look, Al, before we get off, this is from me personally. I want to tip my hat to your governor of Minnesota.
Tim Walz, yeah. Okay.
He stood up to some people.
Yes, he did.
And he took a stand. And I admire him for that. He just, in everything that he's done in my involvement with this project, it was like, it isn't right. I didn't like being on world TV and seeing this man executed in my city, in my state, and we're going to do something about the roots of this evil. So I want to tip my hat to him because, I mean, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, he stood up to those people.
You're right. You're right. Thank you. I think, and he'll appreciate hearing that from
someone who doesn't live there,
right? who's an observer, and who can tell the truth about the situation. So I'll make sure he gets that message. I put up on the screen one of the internal advertisements we run in the paper, and this
that's great.
Promotes our we do a daily newsletter. It's called Insight News Culture. So 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, with the support of our partners called Local Graphics and Dynasty Television, we produce a daily newsletter, and the shows like the one we're doing right now end up being presented as part of an electronic newsletter every day, 5 days a week. That's interesting. And also the daily newsletter talks about the opportunity to support our community. So we're going to be launching a a business directory, community business directory that elevates businesses in our neighborhoods. And obviously the core of that would be businesses owned by Black and brown people, but it'd be for the entire neighborhood. And we're also using that strategy to allow people to support local businesses in any way that they can or they choose to. And we're suggesting things they can do to be of support to local businesses. Our job has been and remains to market, to help businesses get visibility and traction, to get to their customers and to generate sales and revenue. That's what advertising is. And so we are trying to create processes that let ordinary people in neighborhoods know, consumers know, that they can make choices that will vitalize and invigorate our own communities. We can choose how we spend our money. And if we are conscientious, if we are conscious in spending money, we can create bubbles of opportunity, bubbles of awareness. And in doing so, we sort of are reclaiming our space and ourselves and benefiting ourselves, taking responsibility. Other thing I've said often, Brenda and Carmen, I refer to my grandmother in Kansas City. We called her Big Mama, but she would always say to me when I was a kid, in fact, I'll step aside for a second here. I'll digress for a second. When I was around 8 or 9, Brenda, I used to go door to door selling sweet potato pies. Big Mama made these beautiful, wonderful, tasty sweet potato pies and apple turnover type pies. And then I would get a box, like a thin box that was like maybe 4 inches high, but say 20 inches wide and 15 inches deep. And they tie some cloth strings around it so it hangs around my neck. And I go door to door with these pies in little plastic wax paper bags, right? Selling the pies, I think, for either a quarter or for $1 or something like that. But that's how I got into sales. That's how I got into understanding and feeling that people would buy, and a smile is a good thing.
Yes.
If you go with a great product and a smile and you tell your story, people will engage. I also understood that people like to see kids being entrepreneurs. And so I gained that knowledge in doing that. I don't know if you remember, Brenda, that my parents also owned a grocery store in Kansas.
I think I did.
Right there behind my cousin Teola's house, the Powell house on 28th.
I thought it was right on that side street on 28th.
On 28th Street, yeah. It was called Druin's Market, and Mr. Druin not lived there, but he owned the building, and upstairs was an apartment that I don't know if you knew Oscar and Joanne, and who else was the other brother? Oscar, Joanne, and Robert, Bob.
Wow.
Remember them, the Jamesons on the corner of 28th and Brooklyn? You might not have known them.
I don't think so.
They lived above the store. And so my parents bought the store. And at one point in time, we moved from where we had lived over by Central High School back to living on top of the store because we could work, and go upstairs and work and come back downstairs. But that's how I got into selling, being able to work in my parents' grocery store, their business. And before that, with my grandmom teaching me, asking me, instructing me, making me go out and sell pies, but having success at it.
And look at you
And look at you now.
McFarlane. But the McFarlanes are successful. Look at your brother. And I mean, bravo to your parents and grandma. And I bet you those were some good sweet potato pies and apple turnovers. And Carmen, I grew up on 28th, but I grew up on the other side of 28th from where Al and the Powells were. But his cousin, who he was very close to, Bernard, used to roll me down the hill of the park across from where Al and Teola lived, and it would snow, and he would stand up at the top of the hill and just laugh. And my black nappy hair was just full of wet snow. And I had just come from the beauty shop and I wanted to kill him. And he got such a kick out of that. Yeah. But we had some good memories over on 28th in Brooklyn. So to come back and write for this giant, my goodness, what an honor after all of that.
Well,
but this is a great page, and what a beautiful young lady.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. Well, the paper is something that I love. Let me go back to, what I like about this whole newspaper is that I from time to time will just reflect on. Let me close this one down. Because it's a grind every day. I love what I'm doing, but it certainly is a grind. It's been a grind for the past 40 years now. It's been a minute, and
got to take great pride in that, my friend. What a legacy.
So here, can you see the page still?
Barack.
And so when I look back at these pages, that keeps me inspired. The idea of imaging, creating an image, creating a story, and the story has to celebrate our humanity, our resilience, our victory, and our toughness, right? So that picture of my friend Suzanne Burks, she was married to a person that you and I interviewed, Tyrone Terrell. Remember Tyrone Terrell?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so her name was Suzanne Terrell. Suzanne Fuller Terrell. They divorced. She's remarried to Burks, but she's a wonderful, beautiful person. Kansas City connection. Her grandfather.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Came up from Kansas City, and so it was out of our neighborhood growing up. But
wow.
I look back on these covers, target entrepreneurial, focusing on Black military. I do a podcast usually every Thursday, and I connect with half a dozen men who are retired, men and women who are retired from military service, Army, Navy. I'm a Navy, former Navy person. These guys were Army and Marines, and a sister was in the Air Force. And so we have these conversations about being veterans, what that's all about. And the mission is to elevate and celebrate the service our people have given to this country.
Yes.
We've done the work, right? And even when the country didn't reciprocate, didn't give us access to the GI Bill and to home loans that whites got, we still continue to do our part to make America the country it is. So, I reflect on these covers and love the power of imaging. There's another one where we're looking at veterans at the Johnny Baker Post of the VFW. I'm a member of that group. And the one next to George Floyd is artwork by a dear friend of mine named Setu Jones and Tacumba Aiken. And I were 3 peas in a pod, kind of like me, Bernard and Brunel. Another iteration of that. Bernard and Brunel, Carmen, were my first cousins that I grew up with, and it was almost, the 2 of them were twins, but the 3 of us were like triplets. We were together, and they both were 6 months older than me, and so obviously I always pretty much deferred to them. They probably always beat me up. I can't remember.
And we had the same birthday, Al, on the 10th of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a March baby too.
Those Pisces, boy.
Aries over here.
Yeah, the Pisces here. Oh, I love that picture of Chadwick. Oh,
isn't that nice?
I love that picture.
Yeah.
What a great one.
I don't know if
that's so beautiful. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Have you seen Rita Brent? Do you know who she is?
No.
Get a chance to Google her and listen to her comedy. She's a comedian from out of Mississippi. She's from the same hometown that my wife, Bobby, is from.
Oh my goodness.
Bobby's nephews and nieces knew and grew up with Rita Brent. She's phenomenal, a great comedian. What she's created as her style she does these prayers, and she'll call it like the COVID-19 prayer, the get rid of Trump prayer, the fly and
She is powerful, Carmen. I wrote a good piece on her. I love that.
she's funny. She's funny.
She is powerful.
We could use some laughter, absolutely.
Yeah. We've presented Omar, Ilhan Omar, several times, and that's been great. This is artwork of Takumba Aiken, powerful artwork. So
that was my first article.
It was on that
August 3rd in that issue.
Okay.
Yep.
But and here's a lot of the George Floyd coverage.
We still can't breathe. Wow.
Yeah. And our first piece on COVID-19 artwork from St. Paul artist Donald Walker, suggesting that we get
I thought that, I saw that.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of stuff. I love what we've done and what we continue to do. And I think what we have done together with this special series on COVID-19 is both important. It's groundbreaking, and hopefully we can continue this into the future. One of the ideas that you shared in a note this morning, Brenda, and that you don't know that Carmen and I have been working on this for a long time. So that's why things are all serendipitous. You talked about, wouldn't it be great if we created a way to focus on kids, to do a kids insight? And Carmen has led a project called Jóvenes de Salud that we have supported. It's been tangential to the McFarlane media operation, her and my relationship. And so the things that you suggested in the memo that I asked you to share with Carmen are things that she and I have been working on off and on.
I am not surprised.
Over years, right? But everything is timing. And as it turns out, this might be the exact right time. One of the projects that Carmen and I have worked on with her leadership is creating this publication that we called Afrodescendientes. Oh, let me ask you, Brenda, now, you weren't aware in particular about my Cuban roots. And
no.
What was your impression when you came on the call once or twice and saw us throwing down in Spanish? What did you think?
The first time, and Carmen, it's so funny because I just said, I'm done. I'm just done. You know, when you get so much brilliance coming in your direction, and his cousins were the same. Bernard and Bernal were, beyond. So he started rolling off the Spanish, and I said, oh no, that's it. It's a done deal for me. This man is something else. And so I sent him a note and I said, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. It was great. I thought it was great.
I have to thank Carmen for encouraging me and pushing me and pulling the Spanish out of me, because, you know, I operate in the neighborhood like I always do, right? And I'm around brothers and sisters in the neighborhood. So I don't for very often get a strong and ongoing connection. So Carmen has always been in my life, in and out of my life over the years.
I just think that's beautiful.
To look at the Cuban experience and the Afro-Cuban and the Afro-Latino heritage that I'm a part of. And so that's been good. I have been active in the Jamaican Caribbean community, had not been as active in the Spanish-speaking community. And Carmen has helped me gain confidence in using Spanish, confidence in thinking in Spanish. And I just owe her so much for hanging around and putting up with me and pushing me.
And I loved Earth Cry. Your cousins were just great. And I kept listening to the lyrics.
Yep.
And I mean, that was deep.
Yes.
That was really deep.
African-American people don't realize that they have Latino cousins, that were connected, that more Africans went to Latin American countries than to the United States.
Yep.
And so,
that's what they fear, Carmen. Just think what it would be like if all of us would get together. And I thought about that when we interviewed Sharon Day, and it was like, oh, wow. We get indigenous communities and Latin American. I heard Caroline Gentry yesterday, and it was like, Oh, get out of our way.
Yeah, we're all the same. We're all humans,
Yep.
so no matter how you
And
feel us,
that
slice,
was that was
dice
the
us.
thing. Dr. Hayden said, what is it about our loving ourselves
Mhm,
that makes you afraid?
mhm.
It was like powerful. And that's it.
Yeah.
And this is what George Floyd did for us. It's time.
Mhm.
It's just time. I think James Baldwin did that for us back in the 60s when he wrote all of his gorgeous things.
Yeah. Yep. So it's a repeat of life in a different way, and necessity's always been the mother of invention.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised that we're getting all these entrepreneurs reborn and rethinking things, and we've always been resilient. And so I'm just not surprised at all. I'm excited. After the blues, of course, and not talking to another human being for 9 months, it gets a little dreary.
Tell
But the
me about it.
reality is, yeah, that the human spirit always rises. And this is a perfect example of it. And as I reflect on this past month and the excitement of people wanting to have this conversation and wanting to be trusted.
Mhm.
So, because they want to give good information and to use this vehicle, McFarlane is wonderful. I would
And
like to
they've
see it.
done it. They
Yeah, and I
didn't
would like,
hold back.
no, 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 nobody holds back. Yeah, this is Minnesota. But I would like to see it on public TV.
Mhm.
Because in every elder's house, at least in a Latino household, everybody's got a big screen TV.
Mhm.
And so, for the elders to sit back and see someone that they trust
Mhm.
and that is familiar is so powerful. So I'm hoping that this will be part of the impact that these series will have on our community. So thank you, Mr. McFarland.
Well, listen, thank you. We should talk some time again and share with Brenda what you and I have done in the health arena.
Oh,
Carl
I can't wait to go back in. I need to
here
go back in.
earlier in a project that we created called Insight to Health Fitness Challenge, and Carmen was like warrior, warrior,
Yes.
warrior, warrior,
That's
Yes.
so
and
cool.
and
And
then
we won an award from the Black
yeah,
journalist.
we won
Yeah.
a national award.
That's so
So,
super.
yeah, it's fantastic. We
Carmen, Al laughs at me because, it's cold here. I'm in the mountains. And
Oh,
so I'm in a small apartment, but I'm still walking. I have mapped out going from the living room to the kitchen to
you
the
betcha,
bedroom
girl.
to the
That's right.
bathroom for 30 minutes
That's right. And
every
get all
morning.
prettied up, put on some lipstick, and go for your walk.
I'm going to walk no matter what.
Yes, yes. It's a wonderful time for us baby boomers to bring all our knowledge and experience in this new world that for me it's been thrown on me. My 9-year-old granddaughter taught me how to Zoom, how to do videos.
Oh, I know. I've had my iPhone for 3 years. I don't know how to use it. I get messages, I send messages, and I send pictures. That's
I
about
know,
it.
I know, but we can still make a great difference and really help our young people maneuver through these difficult days and difficult times. And yeah, share some of that wisdom, like Maya Angelou used to say.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I love that. When he said that, Al, I just went,
But let me put that up.
oh,
I just want to end the program on this. We were talking with Dr. Peter Hayden a couple of days ago, and he made that quote that you already referred to about what is it about me loving myself that makes you so afraid?
Right.
And you told me then, go ahead and talk about it.
no, I've had this poster for about 40 years, and every place I've moved, it's been on my wall. But when Dr. Hayden said that, and I told Al, Carmen, I jerked around and looked at that poster, and I said, my
Wow.
God, that is true. And
Yeah.
with everything I've been through, I still haven't stopped trying. And then here comes Al McFarlane saying, your writing's not bad. Let's try it. So yeah, it's a good piece.
Well, I'm glad that the doctor shared a quote because I asked our guests to share a quote,
Mhm.
so that we can be left with some inspirational
Well, I've been sending some.
moments. So this is
I've
perfect.
been looking up some. So I've been attaching after you told me that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's why when the guests come on and they're leaders in our community, whether it's government or grassroots, and so for them to share where they get their strength, where Mr. McFarlane gets his, where I get mine, it's a great seed to plant. And
Love that connection.
yeah,
Well, listen, guys,
love
this
you.
is a wonderful reflection. I think, let me just thank you both. Thank you so much, my childhood friend, Brenda Lyle Gray. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this journey and delivering the value that we're bringing to
Mhm.
community through your writing and you're working with me and interviewing people. And Carmen, as always, mil gracias. Mil gracias.
Wow, what
So much.
beautiful work.
Mucho amor.
There she goes rolling that R. I love it.
But you know,
Along with the smile.
you notice how I say her name, imitating her, Carmen Robles.
Robles. That's all my daddy left me. He made me roll my R's, okay?
I love it. I love it. This has been great.
It has
Thank
been.
you, Brenda.
I think I have to go back to work. I have four articles. But that, Carmen, that fills the holes. I did it.
Yes, you did.
And
Congratulations.
then I got a reprieve today. So great.
It's wonderful. It's been a wonderful, exciting, full month. A nail biter every day, of course.
Yep.
But a great team to be here with McFarlane. And I want to thank Kelvin.
I was getting ready to say, hats off to Kelvin.
Yes, yes, and
so
to the whole
much.
team over at the office. Yeah.
Listen, thank you guys. Thank you guys. I'm Al McFarlane, and we'll see you all next time. See you tomorrow, 12 noon tomorrow.
Te veo mañana. Feliz Navidad.